Manager of the decade, maybe the century, maybe the millennium. Is a decade longer than a millennium? Do you know?
It can be.
It can
If you're
be?
actually living it, it can be.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope we're living long enough. And I made a comment. It's Joe Maddon, by the way, who is the CMO of the Cubs organization. We'll talk about why I say that. But first of all, manager extraordinaire. Latest number is 10,874 wins for the Cubs since their inception.
Wow.
Most important one, first week in November 16?
November 2.
Maybe?
Yeah.
November 2, you remember the
Exactly,
day.
yeah, exactly.
Do you remember where you were?
I was in the dugout, and I was ground ball to third base, and I thought KB did slip. I thought it
He
may
did
be
slip,
high,
didn't he?
But it hits Rizzo in the face, and then I just thought 108 years. Right there.
108 years.
Exactly.
But you've reflected for a year and change. Do you have the notion of the generational legacy, the game-changing? People come up to you all the time, and they will for the rest of your life. But have you put it in perspective?
Well, I think that the further you get away from it, the more it becomes in perspective. I think when you're actually living it in a moment, there's so much surrounding it, and your life is moving very quickly at that point. So you don't really sit down and analyze exactly what had just happened. You know what happened, but you don't really permit yourself that opportunity. So I think the further you get away from a moment like that, the more you understand the impact. Of course, I know the impact generationally. I know, great grandparents and I get it, but you have to kind of like almost be done with this to be able to reflect properly and really appreciate the moment. To be part of that group, the players, the front office, the ownership, the fan base, it's pretty exceptional.
You're more like Gandhi than a normal baseball manager. How's that?
Gosh. There's times you got to be a philosopher. There's other times you got to. Well, actually, he did it in a nice way too. I mean, whatever he tried to be forceful, he did it in a peaceful way, and that's not a bad way to live.
Do you lose your temper a lot?
You saw it the other night against Bill Miller.
Remember that?
That was
right.
It's primarily when I do lose it when umpires, I think, make calls like they did the other night, which I think were truly not necessary, and it impacts your game. Listen, we've been practicing since February, and our guys play hard every night. To have an umpire just make a call like that could put you in a bad place, and you could win or lose a division by one game. So all those things matter. And then at the end of the day, you players have to see you. They have to see you stand up for them. I promise you, if they do, the fight really increases. If they don't, the fight will decrease. So it's just one of those things you have to do, but for me, it's a part of my nature.
And you have less opportunity to showcase that with the replay. You just push a button and it's right or wrong. Right?
Exactly. There's many, there's less moments that you may want to get involved. Balls and strikes a little bit because I can tell up or down. I can't tell in or out. Check swings are a really big part of possibly getting ejected. And plays like the other day when I thought was truly unjust, then I could get involved. But you're right, instant replays pretty much taking the argument out of the game.
Are your arguments contrived or impulsive?
I'm totally impulsive. I could go from 0 to 60. I was not even the other night. I wasn't anticipating any of that, and all of a sudden here I am in the middle of this, and I'm out there speaking loudly with Bill, and he was not going to throw me out, so I knew I had to do something to get him to throw me out. Thus, I ran down to first base. I've never done that before. Stood there like a first baseman to really make my point, and then I walked off the field.
Are you fined when you get thrown out?
Of course, yeah. I haven't received that yet, but I'll be.
Well, it'll go to charity.
Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Good. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
So you've been in the game now 25 years. Well, you've been in the managing, the coaching, the coaching side. 93.
Three. May '94 was my first year.
All right,
as
so
a coach.
So Sosha, Buck Rogers, Terry Collins, John McNamara.
Marcel Lashman.
Yeah, I forgot him.
Yep.
You had a chance to work with major league managers. Right. I assume learning bits and pieces from each one as you went along.
Of course. Started with Gene Mock. Gene was there when I first came up as a minor league coach going to major league camps, and Gene was the manager. And I had so much respect for him, his mind and how he did things. And he took a shine to me. He liked me. He put me in charge of different things when I was very young because he watched me in instructional leagues and he liked the way I ran instructionally. I was just doing my thing. I wasn't trying to impress anybody, but Gene saw everything. So Gene was the first guy that made those kind of impressions on me. There was hitting coaches like Benny Himes and Rick Down. They made a lot of impressions on me. Marcel Lachman is another great example. Moving for the best coach I've ever had. The best mentor I've ever had was Bob Clear. Nobody's ever heard of Babalu, but Babalu was an old pirate farmhand. Pitched in the minor leagues a long time. He knew Mr. Rickey. Mm-hmm. He was there when Clemente was there. So Bob Alou was the guy that really put me on my way.
When you write your leadership book and you transcend, what do you think the traits of a CEO of a large corporation, how do they match with the way you run the Cubs?
I'd imagine no different at all, anyway, but I hope to believe it's no different at all. I mean, I really think it's. We have this artwork out this year, and on the Banksy, it's really typifies exactly what I think you have to do in order to be that person, and that's to build relationships. Once you've done that, trust ensues, and then after that, you could exchange ideas. And at that point, then you could really be constructively critical of one another, because there's not going to be any pushback just based on somebody trying to be right. And then you really get something done. So I don't think it's any more complicated than that. And I also think the other part of that are great listening skills. If you think you know everything, you're not going to listen. And if you just want yes men around you, you're never going to prosper. So all those things are important.
Final question from a management perspective. If you accept the Cubs as a worldwide brand, and you see yourself, some could see you as the CMO of a worldwide brand, you're the front porch of a larger brand on and off the field, do you conduct yourself a little differently, or is it still, how do you get a runner from first to third? Are you more global in your perspective, understanding the legacy of the brand?
I don't know. I understand the global perspective, but I don't think of it. I mean, I just think of it I really try to stay in the present tense as much as I possibly can, and if I'm able to do that, then all this other stuff will translate properly. And if I'm more concerned about this larger stage, then I'm probably going to make more mistakes. Then your focus wanes. So just stay in the present tense, and good things will happen.
And your charity, really important. Obviously, we're here today for that. Talk a minute about that.
Well, it's the Respect 90 Foundation, and under that umbrella, today's specific event benefits the Hazleton Integration Project in my hometown, where we're bringing together the Hispanic and Anglo cultures in my hometown. We have a community center right now, very vibrant post-school academic kind of a situation, athletics in our gym. In and outside of our gym, we got this wooded area now too. We're getting a lot more participation from the locals, so that's really prospering, and it really is at the forefront of what's going on in our nation right now.
If it mattered, if you knew that the person that's interviewing you hasn't taken off Cubs shorts in 2 years and has promised not to take them off until the Cubs win again and has started a playoff beard, would it impact how you manage?
I would sit a little bit farther away from you if you knew all that.